I started looking into the psychology and the mindset behind what is happening here? Why am I so stuck in my environment? Why am I feeling this way? New ideas started to emerge. New projects, new goals, new dreams, things were coming up for me and or weaving together in ways that I hadn't thought before that gave me such new just thoughts behind where I wanted to go that was so different than what I was doing a week before that. And how is my perspective changing the reality in front of me? Because every day I'm building that reality, and a lot of it is how I'm going to perceive everything around me. You got to get out of there. Get out of there. And by there, I mean the space that you occupy every single day. Day in, day out, your house, your office, your car, your mindset, your patterning, your preconditioned ideas, all of it. But before I get to that, hey everyone, welcome back to Mission Daily. I'm Stephanie Postles, your host, and today you will notice that I'm doing a solo episode featuring myself. Today I'm going to talk about an experience I recently had that really highlighted to me the importance of what it means to get out of your everyday environment to gain clarity in your life, around your goals, your relationships, literally everything. So to get into this story, I'm going to tell you where I was a few weeks ago. So a few weeks ago, probably maybe like yourself, I was doing what everyone else was doing. I was writing New Year's resolutions. I was writing, okay, what am I going to call in 2024? What's that look like? And then I was also saying, what am I going to leave behind? That's a newer thing. I don't want this anymore. What am I going to leave behind? As I'm writing that, which I've done, for so many years, since I can even remember, I realized that my writing, it felt like deja vu. It literally felt like a rinse and repeat version of things I've been saying that I was going to do, or just slightly tweaked, increased versions of what I wanted to do in the coming year. But it was based off of a foundation that felt like it was calcified. It was there. There was no touching the foundation. There was no adjusting the foundation. That foundation is there. And all the goals and ideas I was coming up with were based off that foundation. Which, when I first realized that, I was looking around and I'm like, okay, these goals are built off the current house we live in. And this goal is built off the company and the projects that I'm already working on. And this goal is built off the relationship that I'm already in. And this one's built off my idea of what it means to be a mom, like things that I've been in now for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. These ideas were just built off of things that felt like they were unable to be moved. Even mentally, I did not see a way to bring in fresh new ideas from a fresh start. And it sounds like an easy thing, but try it. Start trying to just bring in brand new goals that literally demolish every piece of your life. Like starting from scratch. It's pretty hard to do. So I was feeling really stuck. I didn't know how to think outside the box. And the first thing I did, which is probably not normal, is I started looking into the psychology and the mindset behind what is happening here? Why am I so stuck in my environment? Why am I feeling this way? And one of the wormholes that I went down was around quantum physics, and started just reading more, which some of these things I already knew, but some of them I didn't, but reading more about how everything in our space is vibrating. You know, how we, like our entire body, if you just imagine for a second, we are just a beehive of vibrating subatomic and particles and atoms. I mean, we're just sitting here vibrating. Every piece of our body, all the way down to the cellular level, is just a bunch of things vibrating. And then when you look out into your world is also just a bunch of objects, this desk, that wall, everything is vibrating around you. And so it started making sense to me where I'm like, well, no wonder it's hard to get out of this thinking. Everything around me is vibrating with me in a way that my body's very used to, and or it's being impacted by vibrations that I'm not even thinking about. So, I mean, if you think about your lover, your partner, your best friend, your kids, your boss, every person is vibrating at a certain frequency, and you better believe that that frequency probably also impacts you. A really good example that hit home for me on this that I read about was around a bridge. I think it was called the Tacoma Bridge. And it was I was learning about the concept of resonance, which is when basically two frequencies or energies come together and they start vibrating at the same level. And so it was giving an example of this bridge that a big storm came and this bridge got into the same energetic vibration frequency as the wind. So both of them started vibrating at the same frequency that actually made the bridge collapse. It made it start to twist and turn, and then it became too much vibration and the whole bridge collapsed. And now from the outside, people will be like, oh, well, that's because the wind was really strong. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the strength of the wind. It was that the frequency of what the wind was emitting matched the bridge at a certain point. They came into resonance, which changed the whole structure of the bridge. So if that can happen to a bridge, what's happening with me? What's happening with you? What's happening with every person who is vibrating with their environment and the people in it and the everything around you? So once I stumbled down that wormhole and realized, man, no wonder it's hard for me to think outside of this, because right now I'm constantly being impacted, not just by the energies and the vibration, but also just, visually by looking around. It's hard to see a future that is so far past the one that you're in, the present that you're in. It's pretty hard to be creative when you're looking around and it feels like things are already stuck. So there was so many different things that were highlighted to me about how hard it is to actually have clarity around bringing in new ideas or new ways of being or new projects when you're in an environment that you've been in for a long time. And when you have all these preconceived ideas of who you should be, what you should do, what responsibilities you have, how you need to be a friend, who you need to get back to. I mean, so many things feel like they're stuck. And so with that, I did something I've never done before. I went online and I booked a solo trip to a remote treehouse village in Dominican Republic. And so this place, what attracted me to it was it's in a jungle. It is a open tree house. I mean, it's literally like a hut in a tree, no walls, mosquito net over your bed, and there's no Wi-Fi, there's no cell signal. If you want it, you literally have to hike into town to get it. And I somehow stumbled. I mean, that's what's so funny about the universe, and I believe is sometimes it puts things in front of you that you're like, I don't even know how I found this place because it's so unlike my search history, but I'm here for it. So I booked my solo trip there, and when I got there, I mean, you arrive at this location that then you have to walk 10 minutes to get even further into the jungle after riding on these super bumpy roads. And you get there and you're like, okay, I'm here. No, I'm not here. I gotta walk 10 minutes into the jungle even further to get to my hut. And when I got there, it took about a day of adjusting, of being like, man, it's really wet here. It's like raining morning and night. And there's a lizard living up on my roof that it looks at me right now. And then I've got birds flying into my treehouse that just want to hang with me, and I don't really want them here. So I will say it took about a day of adjusting. But after that, after that first day, what I started realizing was that as I was journaling, and it wasn't even that intentionally journaling, it was just journaling about what I was thinking, what I was feeling, emotions that were coming up. I was really trying to be present to what was coming up in me. New ideas started to emerge. New projects, new goals, new dreams, things were coming up for me and or weaving together in ways that I hadn't thought before, that gave me such new just thoughts behind where I wanted to go that was so different than what I was doing a week before that. And I realized that because I was in a space where I couldn't hear from anyone, I didn't have anything to do at the moment, I was so far detached from my other environment that it felt like I had a fresh start to just think as big as I want to. I didn't have to worry about if it was going to hurt anyone's feelings. Okay, if I do this, is my partner, my husband, my mom, like, what are they going to think about it? I felt like I was so far removed from that mental game that I've played before in the past that I was actually able to think about ideas in a different way. And so having that time in my space, I mean, it only took a couple of days of being out there to really see, one, this is something that I get to do every year. Maybe it needs to happen in December before the new year comes in. Maybe it needs to be right at the new year to kind of have my own mini New Year's ceremony, just me with me. to bring in what I actually want and reevaluate every part of my life from scratch. And that was the big piece of it, was realizing that when I got there, I laid out everything in my life that I wanted to look through. And that was the house I'm living in. Do I want to stay living in this location? How do I want to keep momming? How am I doing? What do I want to do? What do I not like? How am I showing up? Like my relationship. Do I want to be in it? Is this something I want to be in? I got to think about every part that would probably have been hard to think about if I was in that environment. I mean, imagine questioning, should I be in this relationship? And there's like your husband right there and you're like, ooh, awkward. Okay. Let me just roll that thought back real quick before he knows what I'm thinking. How do I want to show up with my kids? Maybe I want more me time. Oh, there's my cute little kid. Roll that idea back. Like, I don't want them feeling like I don't want to be present with them. I mean, everything that you think, if you're in that environment, there can be guilt coming up from it, or being like, oh, no, I can't do that because look at this house, I have a mortgage to pay, or look at that car, we need it to get my kids to school. Versus if you're just you with you, wherever that might be, out of all of those spaces that you're used to, and just sitting there and thinking like, what do I actually want? What do I desire? Life is so short. We only get one. What are the things that I'm doing right now that actually I don't like? Or that I don't like how I'm showing up in that space? Or I don't even know if that job is fulfilling to me. And right now, I don't need to make any money because I came here and everything's taken care of. That's another important piece. Going there and knowing that everything's taken care of so that you can also get to that place of like, if I want a fresh start, what does that look like? So many beautiful visuals and ideas and concepts came to me that expanded my way of thinking, allowed me, took my projects from just maybe a 2 to a 10, much bigger visions, not always having to know the how, but knowing, okay, if I know my big vision, here's at least where I'm going to. And no one can tell me this big vision's too big, and nothing in my current life is able to smother my big vision, because here it is, and maybe there's pieces all underneath of it that funnel up to that big vision, but being able to clarify what that could look like, even if it's a 10-year vision, and not letting it get muddied up with the current day environment, people, friends, marriages, kids, all of that can influence what you actually want to do. So it's a super powerful trip, just by being able to go there, and what I call is clearing out your channel. Your channel is in anything that's been inside of you that might not be yours. And that could be from generations before you. You never know. Or it could just be from your day-to-day life of what you're in right now. But going there and becoming a more clear channel to get out the things that maybe aren't supporting you and let in the things from whoever you want to call it, Gus, God, universe, spirit, yourself, whatever it is, allowing new ideas to flow into a channel, which is your body, your mind, your soul, allowing that to come in and integrate in a way so that you can actually think clearly and think about, what do I want to do? What does my life get to look like? So it's a beautiful experience. And the other great thing that I also tag on at the very end of this episode as well is around this experience, just getting out into the world, really. I mean, not everyone, first of all, I'll clarify, you don't have to go to Dominican Republic. You don't have to go that far. That's a little maybe you can, maybe not. Also, if you're saying, I can't do that right now, I would pause and think wow, what's behind that, that decision saying I can't do that? Because what I know about myself and anyone listening is that anyone can make anything work. And there's always ways to shift things and move things. And a lot of things that hold people back, including myself, was just my mindset of, oh yeah, that's too much. I have 4 kids. I can't do that. I have a business. I need to come into the new year hot. I mean, there's so many mental games that you can play with yourself telling you why you can't do it. But I encourage you to think, if you really want to do something, if you think something like this or something very different sounds interesting, not always worrying about the how, but knowing that does sound good. I might want to get there. I might want to do that, and opening it up to the possibility of knowing that 100% of the time, 100% of the things that you think about are possible. So with that, I mean, you could also look at getting outside, literally just going into the woods and saying, okay, normally I'm always going into an office. Normally I'm always working from home. Normally I'm always in the car doing this. You could do something as simple as going out into the woods and being there for a couple hours with a journal and your blanket and water, and knowing just by you being in that space, you all of a sudden are in a whole different energetic environment where now, instead of feeling, your house or your apartment or whatever it might be, you're in nature, feeling the vibrations of trees and the ground and leaves and everything else around you that is very different than probably your day-to-day environment. And then maybe you switch over to a coffee shop, which can be a whole different thing because now you're around a lot of people, which means you're probably absorbing a lot of other people's energies and frequencies and ideas. And maybe that's what you need. Maybe you're like, I need a little boost. And get around people who are excited about what they're working on, and these scrappy entrepreneurs or people who are in there, these writers and authors who are in this coffee shop, that I want to absorb that energy and get into it. So it could look like anything. It's just a call to adventure to get out of your world and into a new one. So it allows you to think on your own for yourself without being influenced by maybe things that you've been influenced by for years. The last piece I will end it on is a really beautiful takeaway that I got from this trip. Was all around perspectives and how every day we are literally shaping our reality. I mean, I think Wayne Dyer said, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. And even though I knew that, getting into a different culture and being with, I didn't go to a resort, some fancy resort. I was either at the treehouse when I was in the Dominican, or I was traveling around the island with a friend who lived there for many years. And we were doing what all the locals were doing, which I normally maybe would have been a little hesitant to do before. But a beautiful experience popped up from that, where one of the men we were with, he was probably, I would say maybe 40s or 50s. And we drove by his house, and it was an open air hut. From the outside, my first impression was like, oh man, this is rough. He has a wife and he has 4 kids in there, and it looks kind of rough. And this man was super open and just wanted to tell me all about, what they do in their village and what life is like. And the first thing he shared was how grateful he was every day for the life that he lives, and telling me just how much time he gets. And he said, okay, I make about, $300 to $400 a month. And that's good in this area. He's like, it's really good. And then I only spend $200 to live with my family, and I have so much time. He's like, we get to do so many things. We go to the beach all the time. We're playing games. They play this thing called checkers there. He's like, we have so much fun dancing. And he was so happy with his life and just with the simplicity of it. And it was such a good reminder, being like, oh, wow, no, he's really happy. And his view of the US was actually, he's like, you guys, you make a lot more money than us, but then you work so much. You have to work so much when you're there. And he's like, I don't think I'd ever want that. I think I like how we live the way that we do, because the dollar for us goes so far when we make our $300 or $400 a month. He's like, it goes so far for what we want. And I was like, man, my perspective of, life and things to be grateful for, it really is all about your attitude and your perspective and what reality you're creating no matter where you are. The same thing happened one other time when we were driving around these different villages. I was on an ATV driving through Samana, the town of Samana, and I was like, what is with all these houses? There's all these half-built houses, or it looks like they're abandoned. They look a little bit scary in certain areas where I'm like, man, I'm not like, what's happening here? Why are all these abandoned houses that are halfway built? And he goes, no, Stephanie, this is a sign of progress. You're looking at progress. What you see, are families building houses paycheck by paycheck. And he said, every time we get our paycheck, these families are buying one concrete brick or whatever else it might be, like one thing of like a block of woods. And he's like, these families are growing throughout these villages. There's a bunch of families that all live together. And he's like, and when you see that, that these families are doing well because they're able to afford a concrete brick at a time, and they only spend what they have. They're not going to overspend it. They normally are not going to get big loans and stuff. He's like, they're building it in a way that works for the way that they make money. And once again, I was like, my perspective of what was happening here versus how they view it and the reality was so different. And it was a good check of like, how am I perceiving the world every single day? How am I looking at my life and what I have going on around me and the presence that I'm bringing to my kids and my family and my partner and my friends? Like, what's happening in my space and how is my perspective changing the reality in front of me, because every day I'm building that reality. And a lot of it is how I'm going to perceive everything around me. So such an amazing experience that I wanted to share, because I really want to encourage anyone listening. If you got caught up in the goal setting, if you got caught up in, okay, what am I going to do this year? And why does it feel similar to last year? Okay, last year didn't even work. Like nothing even really changed. I'm done with goals. Like, no, thank you. I encourage you to find a space and get into a very different environment that you're not normally at, and do it for maybe an entire day. Do your own little mastermind where you just go through and question all the parts of your life and make sure that you're happy with the foundation you're building on. And if not, take that foundation away, because you can always start over. You can always change things up, but it's just difficult to do, I believe, if you're in the same environment that you've been in for many years, or you're building off a foundation that you haven't questioned in a year, 5 years, 10 years. So if anyone listening does this and really wants to go and try this out, I would love to hear about your story. I want to hear about, where'd you go? What did you think about? What kind of mental foundations or structures were there that you weren't really realizing? I would love to hear the story. So email us at infomission.org. Also, if you like this episode and you want more like this, let us know. Give us a rating on Apple or Spotify. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think about things like this. And until next time, I hope you all have an amazing week. I hope you like thinking about all these different elements of your life and your goals and all that. And see you next time.